Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your home host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, and your facilitator here for the Captain's Table. What is the Captain's Table, you may ask? Well, this is where I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to talk about the game. Sometimes it's specific topics, sometimes it's news related. It tends to vary up, though today we have a very specific topic, as you can probably tell from the title. We're going to be talking about racing. One of the most newest gameplay loops added to the game, with a couple of members from the Crux Cup, Mr. Algared and Echobit. So we'll talk a little bit about the Crux Cup as well. But Darj was originally scheduled to come on, and then we had some schedule mix-ups with the other guests, and I asked him if he still wanted to come on because I know Darj is also a big fan of racing. So,
and I'm also a big proponent of chaos, so that's primarily why I'm here.
Indeed. Starting with speaking of Prince of Pluto and Prince of Pluto and the Emperor of Uranus, Mr. Darjanator. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Hello, I am Darjanator. I don't stream like most people here, but I am a semi-active member of the community. You may know me from such wonderful things as the interactive map of the Idris tour. During the vertical slice, and also the ever-increasing spreadsheet of everything Disco has done over the years. So that's cool. But also, I work for JRDF, and if you don't know who JRDF is, shame on you. But yeah, that's been going very well, and I can confirm that I've been my job there has been increasing, and I've been working on the and we'll be releasing that, and so look forward to that during the. Did that come through?
Yeah,
I think Cal's has been monitoring me.
Yeah. Redacted.
I mean, I can't wait for that. I love all of that what you just said. You know, I hope chat's really hyped for that, especially that one you spoke at the second one. What was that one again?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was.
Yeah, that one's
great.
We're
looking forward to that as well. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, but yes, great things coming at JRDF, and so you go check that out. And I'm really excited. Been working really hard.
So yeah, I'm always a big fan of JRDF, especially since I'm a hobbyist myself. I know Al's also does a little bit of hobbying, so if you enjoy our hobby and you want to support us, get some official Star Citizen merch and support a company, JRDF is a fantastic.
It is the only official licensed seller of real life Star Citizen merch that's not actually done by CIG themselves.
Yes.
So, yeah.
All right,
Echo. Grab a beer.
Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Hello, I'm Echo. I'm new here. I backed Star Citizen in late 2016. I joined my primary organisation, Southern Cross Alliance, immediately, an Australian-run social organisation known for hosting regular bar citizens and creating the Crux Cup community race. Now supported by Hyperion Vanguard Corporation, Frontier Consolidated, and Star Citizen Racing, which is scr.gg. I came from Microsoft Freelancer, built by Chris Roberts when he was Digital Anvil, and was looking for a sequel. I've always enjoyed racing, and I draw upon virtual car sim racing experience in iRacing and Assetto Corsa, 3-hour, 24-hour Le Mans, and Nürburgring GT and endurance racing. I've done all of that stuff. And this combination of interests led to me taking an immediate role in the Crux Cup and helping out initially and eventually figuring out a way to translate that endurance multi-class racing experience into the persistent universe format. So you can find me on Southern Cross Alliance Discord at discord.gg/SCA, and more recently the Crux Cup 2953 at cruxcup.com.
Nice. Yeah, so your rig's eyes were going a little crazy there for a moment, but
that's just how I blink in real life. I'm sorry.
Okay. So before anyone makes like that suggestion, because I know we've had a couple of VTubers on before, and I know sometimes they'll just have like their whole body will just kind of end up going like this, And they're like, it's like,
Oh,
hold
yeah.
on 1 second, you know.
No, legit. That's how
Okay.
I am in real life.
All right, good to know.
Oh, yeah, but if you're sorry to interrupt, but like I didn't mention like any of the racing stuff. Like I'm a huge fan of real life racing, especially 24 hours Nürburgring and 24 hours of Le Mans, like those endurance races. For the past 4 years, I think I've stayed up for the entire 24 hours of Nürburgring, and it was amazing.
You'd get on very well with Jez.
Yeah. And if people aren't aware of this, go on YouTube. People watching on YouTube, but not on Twitch right now. People watching on YouTube right now, pause this and go watch 24 Hours. No, Truth in 24 Hours 2. It is a documentary narrated by Jason Statham about Audi's race in the 2011 24 Hours Le Mans. And it was just probably the best racing documentary ever. And fuck those Ford versus Ferrari fanboys.
I'm with you there. That was amazing.
Al, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
I'm Algared. I'm mainly one of the info runners, but I'm also a member of Southern Cross Alliance, which is my main org. I've always, when the org decided we wanted to run a racing event originally for the org, we then very quickly opened it up to the community. So the very first Crux Cup, as we called the racing event, was an Arena Commander in 2015 because there was no other platform available.
To tell you how long I've been in the verse, by the way, I actually hosted that.
You did. And Farisol, I believe.
Yeah, we hosted that in 2015. That's how long I've been streaming chat.
so that's how long the Crux Cup is. The Crux Cup is the oldest, I believe, the oldest run community event for the entire community in game. I remember CIG saying we were ahead of them by 3 to 4 years in terms of where they were thinking they'd want to go. So that was what we did. We always wanted to go to the endurance racing, but the game didn't allow us to do that. Gentleman Jez, who's one of the leaders of the SCA, is a big endurance racing fan. So we always wanted to do that Le Mans type race. So when we could finally get to a point where we could move it into the persistent universe, we were quite keen for that. And the Ahumani track, which we're using, really does lend itself to that. And the ships all need to do refueling. So we even get that pit gameplay going in there as well. So yeah. And I am also the voice of Old Man Al Hurston. Now, you just remember, you just gotta be respectful, and don't forget, see Paul, he's a really good mixologist, makes some really nice Evercrack.
The drink of choice in Hurston, Evercrack.
That's right.
All right.
Pacifies masses.
Right, and you wouldn't know, but Algared is actually only 25 years old, but because he drinks that Evercrack, he looks like a old man of 107.
It's those Uwu girls, I'm told.
Yes.
I keep getting told it's the Uwu girls that do it.
The revolutionary Uwu girls.
That's right.
All right, that's an entirely inside joke that if you don't get it, go watch. I'll put a link up above Darj's head. Go watch the episode where that came up from Lore Citizen, or my other podcast I do on the lore of Star Citizen. So go check that and then come back that whole that nonsense. But we're talking about racing because racing is like I personally am not a very invested in racing. But ever since I moved to Austin, I've tried to get a little bit more invested just because we have the Race of the Americas here every October, and it's a big deal. In fact, my brother-in-law, who's moved down from Tennessee, drove past the race and was like, this is so weird. This is one part of the road that looks like it's just a racetrack. And it's like, yeah, when the Race of the Americas comes around, they close that road because that's part of the racetrack. And they went, oh, because they're motorheads. All my wife's family are like engineers, mechanics, and car people. Like So it was.
It's the same on just about every piece of land that's used for regular traffic during the day and then racing during the night, or whatever you want to call it, like Monaco and Circuit de la Sarthe in France for 24 hours of Le Mans, and it's like, look, I didn't know where I was because I got kind of lost, and there was just sat nav was dying on me, and just realized, wait, this is the main straight. So it's like, holy shit! It's like when you are that entrenched into racing and you finally drive somewhere.
Yeah,
like that.
drive part of that course.
Like my heart was racing, even though I was going 60.
So what I'm saying is that if you are a fan of Star Citizen and you are coming to the Austin Star Citizen CitizenCon at some point, if it's not during the Race of the Americas, you can drive portions of the Race of the Americas track here in Austin. So
if you're in New South Wales and you're into racing, you can actually go up to Bathurst and do the Mountain Panorama track.
Want to go,
So
but
the Mount Panorama track is basically just ordinary streets, and they just lock it off. And yeah.
All right. Let's start off though with the latest edition for Star Citizen with racing itself. We'll start with you on Al. Have you had a chance to check out the racing, or just in general your own thoughts on the racing, just the initial implementation, goods, bads, anything like that just kind of pops to your head?
I haven't checked out many of the tracks. I'm not really into one of the reasons I'm not really much of a racer. I suck at the speed racing. I did try one of the tracks outside Hurston very early in PTU, and every time I got out of a ship and walked on the land killed me. So,
well, you're supposed to race there, not walk on it.
yeah, well, you get out of a ship, and the land would kill you. So it was one of my frustrations with that. But I think it's a really good thing that they're adding, that they're putting in the tracks there, and I really like the idea of, they've looked at what people are doing. So the Snake Pit, they went, oh, people are racing around this track, and they went in and added the graphics and added things to spice it up and make it nicer, and more appealing. And they've gone through now and picked up a lot of the racetracks that the other groups were using it or put in, and they've actually put in things to actually help make them more, or to assist that. I know that they were looking at doing that, or looked at the Ahumani track. It was a more endurance racetrack rather than a time trial racetrack, so it fell out. When they were doing, and they're putting the track in at Orison, some of the markers they put in actually blocked the Ahum, and when they were made aware of it, they actually moved those markers to unblock the Ahumani track. So even though that track's not officially in as one of the CLG have actually made sure that track is still there. So I think it's a great thing. It's more content. It's a tip of a hat to any of the orgs or any people who have done those things and developed tracks and built tracks and organized tracks. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Echo, your thoughts? Have you been able to check out the racetracks at all, or your general thoughts on those new racetracks?
I have raced them all. I tested them all in ETF and was the first to list all the initial track times for them. They're all so beautifully dressed up. I think it's really a really cool insight into what's to come for just racing content in general. I'm also a member of XGR, so I follow their times and compete against them. I think it's perfect for time trials, and it's a really good starting point CIG have created for racing. Just the shortest tracks, get your best time on it, and now you can earn credits. You can improve your skills, earn credits. It's a beautiful gameplay loop for people that just want to improve their flying in general, and I think it's going to skill up a lot of citizens going forward. It's a good thing for everyone.
Awesome. Darj, have you had a chance to check out any of those tracks?
No, I'm pacing myself. I kind of want to wait, and if I've missed this point, I do apologize, but I want to wait until the new AR markers are in for all the races. So the way saw it last time, it was only just the regular little cross checkpoint for every checkpoint you have without all the arrows and gates that are supposed to be in there. Have I missed that? Have they put that in yet?
The checkpoints and gates are there as part of the mission.
Sure,
but not the visual
visuals.
ones. Yeah.
No, yeah. I'm not talking about the visuals. Yeah. I'll wait until that's there because I feel like that's going to play a big part in it, in how um, the track layout is perceived to the racer and to the viewer. So I want to just wait until that's completely in until I try to get it, because I was quite uh, frequently racing in the Arena Commander, so that had all the proper markings and everything set up for that the way it's supposed to be. But right now, it feels like it's a bit barren. It still feels like it is only community organized for the most part, until they put all the final bits of polish until until then I'll think I'll wait and just pace myself.
Okay. Based off what you've seen, though,
Mm.
what are your thoughts on it? Like the loop, the racing in general.
They're great evolution of what we had in Arena Commander, but I wish we had more extensive racing in space, for instance, in asteroid fields over longer distances. But like Al said, like there was like an endurance race that was left out, and so I guess that's for a reason, just because of how the game handles the containers right now or something like that. So
There are things that are, I think, are coming for that. It was
yeah,
just at the moment, but the tracks they were putting in were the time trial tracks. But if you like asteroid tracks, there is one coming.
Excellent. Yeah, we've been waiting for that one at GrimX for ages. So they even have the betting place up. Yeah, well, yes, of course, yes.
I was thinking of Scarlet Apex, but that's just I'm just putting in a plug.
Sure. But because right now the tracks feel like, okay, in terms of comparing it to real world racing, it feels more like rallycross instead of actual proper big GT racing.
Yeah.
Rallycross, for those that not even know, is basically just what the PTV racing is going to be on like small, very twisty, very closed circuit sort of racing, instead of long straights, big sweeping corners. So you have like more ships side by side, vying for positions and trying to overtake and get into the inside of the corner, stuff like that. This is more like very tight twists, not a lot of time to accelerate up to your full speed and then have to decelerate again. That's the sort of racing I'm for, and hope we get more expanded racetracks like that in the future.
Awesome. I mean, my own thoughts.
I'll still go as soon as it's in. I'll still go because racing.
I'm a big fan of them adding racing as a profession, because it's a profession, because you can earn money now, which is great. Like, hands down, I think that's one of the best additions CIG's made in a long time, just because it's something that they've been wanting to do, that people have been wanting to have, and CIG's own lack of interest basically led for like XGR and Atmo and the Crux Cup and Star Citizen Racing, like all these different groups forming because CIG just said we don't care. And then CIG realized that if they don't do something quick, they're going to. It seems to me it's like CIG realized, wait, there's a movement for this. There's people who do this. Let's actually put it in the game. And it was a great kind of like almost groundswell. Like it only happened because people were showing off that it could happen in game. So
That's right. Got to plug Antia Racing there as well.
Antia, yeah, he was in chat. So
Yeah.
Yeah, Antia Racing is the new home of Crux Cup, so it's the Australian New Zealand Intergalactic Aerospace Racing Corporation or something like that. So yeah.
One thing I would say is that I love is their desire to move all the racetracks into Arena Commander outside of the PU. And I hope that is where the time trials go, not the races. So we have the time trials in Arena Commander, so you can go there and practice against your personal time, maybe AI, just to see what sort of what the racing is like with traffic. But in the PU, it'll be only races against players, like proper high stakes races instead of just.
We'll get into that here in a moment, but I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind AI racing, like players racing against AI as well.
Yeah, sure, but so long as it is in the frame of high stakes racing and not just go be fast.
Yeah.
You know, like proper qualifiers, practice, and actual long races with possibility of death, and then whoever wins at the end gets a big prize money instead of what we have right now, which is fine. It's a game loop that I am for, but it kind of feels not as elaborate as it could be.
Yes, it seems very basic, and of course,
I have a question for you, Daj. Have you actually heard of a Crux Cup and checked out the Crux Cup? Because it sounds like they're offering what you're wanting.
I have heard of them. Yes, I have heard, but I haven't had the chance to look up on them, because every time I hear of them, it's in situations like this on the captain's table at 2 a.m.
Yeah,
and then I go to bed, and then I wake up and was like, "What are we talking about?" We have beer. Unfortunately, but you got me on Discord. Send me links, give me info, and I will definitely check it out.
I will also say, because Echo asked to say, can you talk about some of the lore for racing before it? And I do want to bring this up because they actually did add lore with 318 with the racing, which is kind of cool. And I'll read it off. It's called WildStar Racing. So all of the tracks that are in Stanton are actually in lore. They've been created by a group called WildStar Racing, which is like a minor league racing crew. It's like a league that it was created by a bunch of enthusiasts who were doing it illegally, who decided to do it legally and got all the rights to build all these racetracks. And are the ones who pay you to do those time trials and stuff like that. So they're like, hey, if you do well, we'll pay you, this money and that kind of stuff. So it's nice that they're starting to add that, because at least to me, that seems like almost every system may have its own racing league, small to big, with like the big star being the Murray Cup, being the Grand Prix of all of the leagues. So
I hope they make the Murray Cup as douchebaggy as Grand Prix is in real life.
I hope so. Based off of the fact that it's on green and some of the screenshots we've seen, yes. Because for those of you who don't know, the stuff we see in Arena Commander is supposed to be like a small time trial. The actual concept for the Murray Cup takes it all over the planet and across the entire system. So it's like this giant system
the
line
asteroid
run.
fields.
Yeah.
It is a massive thing. They're just time trials we've got in Arena Commander, aren't they? It's just qualifying type things.
Yeah. That's what I want. That's what I've been saying. Yes, please.
You want big cuts. Well, let's. That's a good thing to bring into. Where do you think they can go from here, Darsh? What would you like to see them add in, say, next year, and then going forward beyond that?
Oh, right. Okay. So as I said, and this has been mentioned, events, race type events where where it's an entire weekend as it is during a racetrack. During a proper race in real life, you have practices, you have exhibition races to go alongside on the same track, and then you have qualifiers to figure out the positions for everybody on the main track. But I also want changes to racing equipment in game, racing undersuits that are shit at everything except G-forces, racing components that give you an extra edge on shields if it's a like close quarter racing, or if it's actually, or just uh, ships bumping against each other, or if it's even weapons free. But they only last for the race, or even not for the entire race. So you have to pit in and replace the components. And what else? And make it a huge spectacle with possibly, I don't know how, if this is even possible, but have it streamed in game. So this is probably going to have to be with after server meshing is in. But you could have hundreds of people watching just these racers going by for hopefully an hour at a time. You have like hundreds of people just in, standing there. Maybe not broadcast. Or maybe the stepping stone would have to be broadcast with the Macos, with the Reliance. So you have people maybe watching in game or outside of game, just like you have with the demo rally. You have streamers and people on Twitch watching, like thousands of people watching on Twitch. But then eventually just have players be able to just go and be audience at that event, and then hopefully eventually have these events be so bombastic and so grandiose that the racers that do well in them become celebrities in lore. That is the big
ultimate goal. This is
ultimate goal.
We're not talking about any of this. This is next year, but you're talking about.
Definitely not. Like 10, 20 years.
Yeah, I will agree with you on that. I think the game is ready for a dynamic event that's racing. That's just CIG trying its hand at doing a Crux Cup or Stanton 7 or Daemar Rally or any of those sorts of things, but like in their own event style. Echo, what would you like to see them going forward from here where they currently are?
Oh my god, there's so much to unpack from this discussion, but I'll start with the lore. Thanks for
welcome to the Captain's Table.
Oh my god, yeah, you guys really go ham. Yeah, so from the lore point of view, like when I was testing these missions, I just sort of saw the name Wildstar, but didn't really think much of it. It's cool to hear that it's a minor racing league. I didn't know that, so thanks for sharing that. And maybe for the lore going forward, like I'm aware of the Murray Cup. I'm aware that it's hosted out of Alice, which is like 2 jumps inside the Terra Loop. But I think Murray Cup needs a competitor, and I think Al will agree that it would be cool if Crux Cup had its own sort of presence in the lore at some point. We'd love to push for that. We're based out of Seoul, so we got Centralists versus, Terra. We could do that sort of playoff. I don't know. I'm just putting ideas out there.
Well, certainly in the Crux Cup's lore. Certainly in the Crux Cup's lore, it was started in Seoul. The Senate decided they wanted this race to celebrate the millennium of first inter-nation war on Earth, because it was a symbolized mateship and sacrifice for empire and all the rest of it, and they wanted to plug this idea, so they kind of had this idea of a millennial race. So the first official Crux Cup was in 2014, or 2914. It went out of favour because the first winner of that race was supposed to say how awesome it was to be an Earth pilot, but he went on to say, this is just proof that, as a citizen of Terra, but Terra is the first among equals, which didn't go down well with what they were hoping. So
Wow, we had drama back then already. Damn.
hey, yep. So the Earth Terra debate is hundreds of years old. It's quite old. So yeah. So
yeah. So anything else, Echo, that you want to add in terms of like long term stuff?
keep going, Echo.
Yeah, actually, and back to Darjanator, I really liked your comments on racing components, like having racing shields. I think that's something CRG see a lot of in Spectrum. I see it come up in game ideas all the time. We have overclocking, which has sort of been pushed back and might come back, tuning, crafting. And there's some other weird things like vector lock mode is tied to landing gear mode, so we might want to see that separated. And then we've got master modes coming, which is going to add another kettle of fish to how they deal with racing versus combat.
Yeah, how do you think like master modes is gonna feed into racing specifically? Because wouldn't racing be primarily just flying?
That's it, yeah. So initially, like, my first reaction was, okay, it's just a slowed down fast maneuvering versus sped up mode with shields down. You just have a toggle for that during racing. But then there's different kinds of racing, like we have the time trials coming in, which are just, I would imagine you'd always be in SCM mode for that, versus our much larger endurance tracks like the Ahu Mahi Ring, where there's a lot of straights, obvious checkpoints, so you would get more use out of switching into the nav mode, which I think they're calling it now. And yeah, from what we've heard, they've added boost back into that mode, so they're experimenting all the time with how they can not give combat too much of an advantage, but also stay aware that there's a racing community out there that races in straight lines and also maneuvers around corners and tricords a lot. It's good to see they're keeping us in mind.
Yeah, Racing Herald when?
Yeah.
Our race, the Crux Cup, it's
Yeah.
the fastest ship in atmosphere. It's the fastest. It's so fast, in fact, it's 30 seconds above every other ship in the game. We've had to give it its own racing class. So
Well, you just don't have enough corners, I guess.
that's right, yeah. But that is the part of the beauty of some straight line racing, at least in our track, is that there's boost management involved. There's precision at lining up to that checkpoint as soon as possible. There's a lot of subtleties to that.
This is why I think the community, the racetracks that are in right now aren't really thought out, because they don't play to the strengths of every ship. Like if you take a look at the most famous racetracks in the real world right now, they have a lot of complex corners where you need to slow down and you need to attack the apex very carefully. But they also have lots of straights. That is where a ship like a Herald would come in its own, like a lot. So even if it like falls back during the corners, during the chicanes, it will be able to catch up, and make up a lot of ground during the straight, where other ships that are maneuverable can't really come up to speed. But then the Herald just, you just look in the mirror and just like gets bigger and bigger, because it is able to catch up. And that is something that the current races are missing. It's all a lot of technical corners. In Trackmania, you would call it tech. Instead of full speed. If anybody's into Trackmania, I know Walkapedia is into Trackmania, but Walkapedia is probably not watching this. Or maybe he is, because this is racing themed. Maybe. But yeah, something like that. Circle de la South for 24 Hours of Le Mans has a huge straight that kind of got nerfed a couple of years ago by adding 2 chicanes. But before, it was like several minutes of going just flat out in a straight line. And the Nürburgring has a huge straight at the end of the lap as well. So, and that is where all the cars just reach the top speed, and you can see because it's multi. Oh, that is also one I want. Sorry, I'm very ADHD right now. But,
That's good.
multi not category, but Echo, you know what I mean.
Multi-class racing.
Multi-class
Everyone
racing.
races the same.
Yes.
This is what the Crux Cup is.
Yeah.
We have.
Yes, but is it proper multi-class? Is it proper GT
is.
versus prototype?
It is
Sort of
Yeah.
differentiation. Is it Auroras versus M50s?
Yes, they have a
We
mixed
do.
mode.
We have
Yeah.
all of that.
At the same time
At
on
the
the same
same
track.
time on
I
the same
want
track.
into that. I
Yeah.
want in on that. Okay, I'm gonna be writing shit down.
There's a
Where's my
dedicated
pen? Where's my
Aurora-
pen?
There's a dedicated Aurora
Cruxcup.com.
racing mode. There's a couple. Cruxcup.com. Yeah, or is it? Yeah.
But even the Aurora, like even though the Auroras are of their own class, you can race
Yeah.
any ship as long as it's Aurora in that class on the track with the heavy
Yeah.
ships and the open. So it's on the track with other ships. So yes. So
Yeah, that's
it.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll
everything
just
you
run through
keep
them if
saying
you
I
don't
want,
mind.
you're going, got it.
We got it.
Got it.
I'll run
Got
through
it.
all the Crux Cup racing
ahead.
classes just briefly. So
Go
we
for it, yeah.
have the professional racing classes. So this is like your LMP1s, your GT3,
and this-
GT4.
And this will answer a question that one of the people asked just in chat. But the prisoner said, even faster than an LX, a Razor LX or a Razor. So since
Yes,
you go into those times, you can speak specifically to that as well.
that's it. Yep, so professional racing classes are the A-Crux, which is Herald only, AX2, which is the 350R and P72. They're very well balanced, have different playing styles. We felt they're competitive against each other. And then we've got AX3, which is your Mustang Gamma or Omega, or your Razor LX, EX, and M50. And they're all also in a speed class that's competitive against each other. And then for everyone else, we've got the open class, which is any other ship not in a racing class. So you can rock up in your favorite ship. We've got people, they've got a 600i racing team. We've got people racing a Reclaimer because they just love that ship. And we're introducing a new class, which we got feedback for this year, called Heavy, and that's Industrial Large and Capital Ship Racing Pilots. They have their own class to compete against. And of course, the Aurora Classic, which is Aurora. Everyone races at the same speed. That's the challenge of that racing class.
Cool. Which class would, say, a Manta with a foxtail on its antenna be in?
Definitely open. It's open to
okay.
everyone.
And
There's like 4 people in chat who's gonna know the reference.
so I was looking at the times for the last practice with the AX2, I think the M50 or the P72 and the M50 was
350R and P72,
350R. Yeah, and the times are different, but the P72 has to go and refuel more often. So even though it's a slight difference in speed, you lose speed because you've got to go into pits. So it balances out.
That's the magic of endurance racing, because you can have a slower but more efficient car or ship, on average having the same speed as a faster but less efficient car that has to go into the pits more often. That was one of the things in that documentary that I posted in Truth in 24 Hour 2, where the Audi, even though it was slightly slower on pace, could do 1 lap more per stent on fuel. So they could stay out on track more, and eventually over 24 hours had to pit fewer times. And if you want some numbers, I crunched those numbers. Over 24 hours, including all the red flags for crashes, because there were quite a few crashes, and pit stops, the lead car managed over 200 kilometers an hour, or 120 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
They did almost 5,000 kilometers, or 3,200 miles, something like that, in 24 hours.
So Echo, can you answer that question regarding the position of the Herald in terms of times on the track, and just give since the prisoner specifically asked, or the prisoner specifically asked, in reference to the comment you made about the Herald being faster, what other times around that 94-kilometer Ahumani track?
Yeah, so its max speed at Horizon is 475 meters per second with a boost speed of 638 meters per second. The world record is held by Shaknu of XGR. He can do it in 3 minutes and 4 seconds. And if you want to do some quick maths, it's a 94-kilometer track. So they're traveling at 2,000 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
Doing it in 3 minutes at 94 kilometers.
That's
the
close to
race
Mach 2, by the way.
is very quick. And they're racing for an hour, and they have to pit every 5 laps in the Herald. They can get at most about 18 laps done in an hour.
How are you refueling?
At the moment, it's hangars, and the average time you would spend around the hangar, you can get it down pretty quickly to 51 seconds is what you would add to your lap time.
Okay.
And what's the speed of the Razor on that track?
The Razor is 4 minutes 30, so it's significantly slower, and that's why it's in a separate racing class of its own.
Yeah, you'd imagine that it was like a Razor designed to race would be quicker, but that just goes to show that the design of a racetrack plays just as much of a point as does the actual speed of the car. In real time, in real race, I'm guessing the Hell would be something like a Veyron or a Chiron that in a straight line would just obliterate everything, but you give it a corner and it's everything that's small and light and grippy would just dance dance rings around it or something like that.
You're completely right. It's much more time trial focused, where all of its thrusters are balanced, and its boost speed doesn't give it that much extra speed, but what it does do is empower the maneuvering thrusters a lot more. It can produce way more Gs than the Herald. It also doesn't have to refuel as much. It can do twice as many laps, which makes it super suited for time trial.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Let's get back onto the topic with the topic at hand. But that was good. I didn't realize we hadn't really gone into that, so it's good to get into that. Al, what would you like to see added to racing going forward to really kind of flesh out the gameplay?
Are we still on this question?
Yes, we are.
Hey, I don't want to see it all. I want to see proper pits. I want to see not just races, but I want to actually see a racer turn up with their pit crew. And so the better your pit crew is at changing, refueling you, even if it's, and I think the idea of refueling ships by hand, not automatic, is one of those things that I think really lends into that. I hate the idea of ships like the Odyssey not being able to refuel ships in its hangar and you having to do it by hand. I hate the idea of the Liberator being, it's only hand repair and hand refuel. That makes that ship perfect as a pit crew. Because yes, you can repair the ship. Yes, you can change out the components, but you've got to do it by hand. Yes, you can refuel the ship, but you've got to do it by hand. And that makes having a pit crew in racing an absolute gem. And that changes it from not just being the fastest guy around the track, but also having a really well-trained pit crew.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because if you are on pace with someone else on the track and you pit at the same time, but your pit crew can get you out 5 seconds earlier than the other guy, that means that positions have changed. So for the next stint, instead of being behind the other person, you're ahead.
And then if you add in the components, like you've got your racing component and you've had your pit crew and they've been able to adjust that, overclock it a little bit. Hey, it might burn out earlier, so you've got to go into pits earlier. So then did we have another spare of that component to put in? Or have we now got to go in with one less component? And that whole aspect is something I'm looking forward to. I know at the moment, if you strip ships of their components, they go slightly faster. So even that comes into the gameplay of racing.
So Al is less of a racer. He's more of like a team manager, right?
Yes.
Well, old man Hurston is probably like that, So yeah.
I will say, I think, I'm not following this. I don't follow racing as much as I said, but I am very much interested in seeing events, because I think if you had a proper, like, spawnable event, I think this is one of those things where I'd say not Siege of Orison, not Xenothreat, not Jump Town, none of those events that we currently have. None of those are really good, repeatable, spawnable events. I think those will be good in the future. But I do think that if you had a certain number of people who reached a certain point in the time trials, that you would see a event spawn from WildStar Racing that'll say, "Hey, we've got some top competitors here. This is going to start. We'll have a race that'll start at his point. These are the competitors who are available." So if you're like a racer, you have to pay attention to the game. You see the announcement, you go, "Oh, I've got a week to prepare," and then you just have the proper race where people could come and join and watch, or people could try to interfere, and you have those sorts of interesting aspects to the race itself with big prizes at the end.
A proper race calendar would be nice, but yeah, you kind of have to take into consideration that this is a video game and people don't like in real life racing. It's people whose entire lives and jobs surround these things, so
what I'm saying
they
is-
can have like
What I'm saying is
have a calendar in full year in advance.
Yeah, but I mean, with the idea being like you have like a certain number of people as a trigger reach a certain time on the tracks, then the WildStars say, okay, this coming weekend we're going to do an event where you can join if you had these times, and then if those people don't show up, then they have an NPC, that'll race for them. So no matter what, there's always a race going on. It's just depends on the players versus the NPCs who show up, and there's a big prize money at the end. Just because that's an easier event in my mind, at least, to spawn, and it's much more exciting because it's a limited event, so only a certain number of people would be able to get in there. So
one of the things I currently like about the Ahumani track is that because you fly through the main industrial tunnels as your markers, when you're on Green Circle, you've got a perfect view of Providence Station or Providence Platform, and heading off to Shimoa Platform, and that's actually part of a race loop. And so if you're standing on the Green Circle, please see, you can actually see the racing ships zip through and go on their way. So down the track, as more and more people come in, that's one of the things that would be having those spectators be able to watch on the site and see the race is something that I'm looking forward to as well. So it's not just pit crews, it's that whole thing. And then people watching the race on say a platform or in an 890 jump doing a tour. Then you've got your food vendors going around selling their food, because
if you're red hats.
If you're watching a race for 3 hours or an hour, we've had people die waiting for a race to run when food and drink came in, because I didn't drink up enough hydration. So it's going to be the same if you're on a platform. Your hydration runs out, so you're going to have people selling you food, or the little food vendors going around selling peanuts or whatever, and 890 jumps doing the cruise above the track, or so you can watch, and selling drinks to the rich, and that's just more gameplay or more things for people to do in game, and lots of those. It's not just racing. I want to see. I want to
so
see the
much
whole
potential.
I want to see the whole gamut.
And that's the thing. It's like that is an interesting thing that CIG would not only get attention for from fans, but from the outside. Basically, the headline writes itself. Star Citizen has races which you can attend and watch. Watch professional racing. You can watch professional esports in-game, hosted by the community, or hosted by the game itself with its in-game mechanics. I don't know if that's going to be possible this year, but I would hope that CIG is striving towards that, especially with all these new additions that they're doing.
If they get this right, I can totally see Red Bull getting in.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure. Red Bull's already worked with them, so why wouldn't they work with them
have
more?
they?
Yeah, they've been sponsored before. They talked about they did a whole piece on Atmo Esports and the Daymar
Oh.
Rally.
Right, that's true. Yeah. I watched
Yeah.
that video. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that was more like I didn't think it was like actually working for it. It was just reporting on stuff that was happening because it wasn't just Star Citizen that was in that
That's true.
piece.
But
Yeah.
they
So,
did
but like
interview CIG
actually
developers and stuff
getting
like that.
actually Red Bull actually getting involved either as a sponsor or as consultancy for actual racing, how racing is done, because they do so many different types of racing in real world. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be
But
amazing.
one of the things I think in answer to your question, Paul, is what you'd like to see CIG
Yeah.
do. I think they actually plan to do that. We see that planning in game at the Grimhex racing platform viewing area. We see that in the story of a Murray Cup being on green and in Ellis. In fact, it was that kind of story of a Murray Cup that kind of spawned the idea of what Crux Cup wanted to do. Crux Cup wanted to kind of mirror the Murray Cup. In fact, the law is that because we only had the Arena Commander tracks that were kind of on Ellis. The law that we created was that even though it's on Sol, they recreated the same tracks because they were competing with and trying to usurp the position that Murray Cup had. So I think CIG kind of had that plan all along to go that way and go the esports route and also have the viewing platforms and in-game, all of those in-game things we're talking about. It's just that the game just couldn't support or couldn't do that stuff. But I think it's down the track. That's where they're heading and want to go. So I think it's exciting.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about non-spaceship stuff before we move on to the question and answers. Yes, Darsh.
Can I have a question? Just what do you feel about dirty racing?
Dirty racing,
as in weapons-free racing. So
Echo?
because this underground racing, the racing that is being introduced into Star Citizen is supposed to be is built upon an underground racing league. But is that only because it's sanitized racing that is done unofficially from any sort of established organizational body, or is it because there's also guns involved?
If
I
may
think Echo is the best
jump in.
person to answer this. Go for it, Echo.
Yeah. So imagine the Crux Cup. Copy paste all of the technical regulations, the multi-class racing, and then you enable distortion damage for that race. That is what we've been working on. We tried it last year, called the Scarlet Apex, and it was set around just outside of Grimhex racing track, using one of the old scramble race cable things as the track. So it's all close quarter. It's a super exposed track. You can bring a turret gunner into the race as well as a racing class. And the idea is to disable your competitors. Anyone that's in the lead will be a hotter target. And we themed it as like Crusader Security, trying to skill up their pilots and give them a race to have fun and to maybe help out with support of Siege of Horizon.
And as we were talking to someone recently, and they made the suggestion, it was hearts and minds for the to win the hearts and minds of the people. So it's kind of Crusader Security pushing back to try against the excesses of that evil outlaw group and win the hearts of the small people. So.
Sure, that's all fine and dandy, but I actually meant lethal damage, not just disabling. That's sort of dirty racing. Like someone said, like the prisoner said, like Death Race 2000.
But you disable someone's ship in an asteroid field.
Sure, but that is indirect sort of damage. Yeah, but I mean actual intent to kill and destroy, disable by any means necessary. That sort of racing, Mad Max style.
I think a criminal or pirate syndicate organized racing event would be kind of cool. But I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the last part. Sorry. I was just letting y'all talk about it. Let's move to this last part before we move into the questions and answers. We've talked about racing now, and we talked about the future of racing. We've talked about most about spaceship racing. Let's talk a little bit more about about ground racing, about like vehicle racing, and where do you think it wants to go? Because the one thing that I think almost everyone can agree on is that the scramble races they did for back in the day were not received well. No one did them, and they were very, very badly designed. I think most people had a problem with that. So, how do you think CIG should go forward beyond spaceship racing or starship racing to more of the kind of the ground vehicle racing tracks? Al, I'll start with you on this one.
I think tracks like Snakebit actually lend themselves to ground racing as well, because you just drive your vehicles around the track on the ground. So I think that works. I know that Daymar Rally kind of does post to post, so outpost to outpost type racing. I know that your LAMP festival journey usually takes a trip from a outpost to an outpost.
Yeah,
first journey of the
year. Traveler's Day. Yeah.
Yeah, so I see those types of things and having shorter, using the idea of the shorter tracks, and I'm pretty certain there's vehicle tracks that they've put into around Hurston. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't checked them out. But I think also when we look at the buggy race they've put in at at Hurston, not Orison, but the buggy track they've put in at Orison also lends that idea that they do want that type of racing in. But the way they initially put it in, I think was half cocked with kind of the markers just appearing, and that didn't work. And I think part of it was because it was too random and the ground was just too uneven, so you'd smash yourself into rocks all over the place. So yeah.
Okay. Echo, what do you think? How do you think it would be? How do you think that should be added for ground racing?
Yep. I'll start with the PTV racetrack. It's great to see that coming in. It does need multiplayer racing support. That would be great to see. I'm sure it's coming and planned. And on Inside Star Citizen recently, we saw concept art of gravlev vehicles and underground facility racetracks. So I think they've got that sort of stuff in mind. I'd love to see that. I love gravlev racing. I raced in the bike division this year for Daymar Rally and had a great time. Hold a world record for that. I'd love to see open field gravlev racing as well, and support for Daymar Rally. Take that time trial checkpoint system, make it system wide, make it so that there could be a mission to practice the Daymar Rally, because markers are a real issue for setting that up. At the moment, you have to use delivery boxes or a friend who just sits there idly marking the outposts. A racing checkpoint system in general would be great. It's a highly requested thing for us to be able to do.
And even taking the Daymar Rally type, if doing individual checkpoints, so checkpoint A, checkpoint B, checkpoint C, and doing each of those legs as a separate, almost as a separate race, race there and back, so you could actually practice the different legs of a race would be quite cool, and that would work for even spaceship races as well if they're going longer. So,
Darsh, your thoughts on ground racing? How to improve it? How to make it work?
Several things. I would like to see several types of ground racing, because the way the Daymar Rally is set up right now is more like a Dakar style race. You have checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2, and whatever route you take between the two is up to you. Whether you want to go slightly longer but smoother track, or versus a straighter but more jagged and more harrowing track, up to you. Do what you want. And with the new events that are coming in, I do believe that it will be so easy for CIG to just, when the Daymar Rally is running, these checkpoints are global. No need for faffing about with boxes, mission boxes, or friends. That would be such a quality of life improvement for everybody involved. But I also would like, in more built up areas, especially maybe Area 18 or Orison, to have more proper racing with very specifically laid out and strict racetracks. So it's more to do with a racer's control of their vehicle instead of their ability to navigate the terrain, if you know what I mean. So they know how to go from apex to apex and then overtaking another racer that is either in the same class or in a slower class. That sort of more closed in racing I would like to see alongside of the more, just checkpoint over there, 500 kilometers, get to it any way you can.
I like the idea of the roads, and I think they've got the tech, kind of being worked on that, because I think the tech they've been developing for rivers, it's effectively the same tech they'll end up using for roads, because it'll map out the path, and then you'll just, instead of a river or waterway, it'll be a roadway. So I can see that type of thing coming in,
and if you have a hover bike, maybe you could, just cut over the apex. But in something like a Ranger, you would need to follow the road and follow the apexes. But something like that. But other than that, officially longer races. It's like, I don't know why CIG is so against endurance racing. I guess it's service stability that they want. They want to ensure that a server that is doing racing can last the entire duration of the race, instead of just you have a couple of laps that are over in 5 minutes.
Maybe the reason why that scramble races, in my experience, was because there was boulder hell. It was hard to race anywhere between places.
Checkpoints being like 200 meters up in the air didn't help either.
No. And the fact that they were, no one wanted to do them because they just weren't valuable. Like, there was no time trial version of it. There was no way you could do it solo. It was all that sort of thing.
And they changed all the time, so it wasn't. Again, you couldn't say I'm the best at this racetrack, because it was ever changing.
There is a very specific and very complex culture to racing. And they didn't grasp that when it came to scramble races. I believe they have enough people who are very passionate about racing on staff now that are involved in creating these races. So I think like they're going in the right direction, so they will be able to get to it properly, to capture what it is actually to race, instead of just going fast from point to point. That's not what racing is.
Yep. I also think there's quite a few in the staff pool who are also into the endurance racing. So there tend to be a few who have been quite keen for the Crux Cup style race, because it's not their usual times to trial stuff. And I know when they were looking at it, and please Echo, correct me if I'm wrong, but when they were looking at it, it wasn't fitting where they were heading at the moment. But they are still keen and for that. So.
That's right, yeah. Our tracks are designed more for multiplayer racing and to fit all kinds of ships and all kinds of skill levels. So they've got us in mind, but just not for the time trial stuff. It makes sense.
I will say, so far it seems okay with like the pacing. The way they've paced it right now, it seems like it's a good start. It's a good beginning. My only concern is that CIG has often picks up things and then just dropped them. So it'd be nice to see how this evolves and goes forward, especially with the community that's already so viable and active right now, like Star Citizen Racing League, the XGR, with things like the Crux Cup, things like the same S7, all these different groups popping up. Hopefully that'll put enough pressure on CIG to continue to produce this gameplay loop, because obviously there's a niche for it. So
It's not. It's not just a niche. Did you realize how many people watched the AMR rally this year?
How many?
It was like 4,000 at the start, just on the official Atmo Esports Twitch channel, and there were other people, restreaming and watching, and also the official camera people for every stream also had like, I think, total another 1,000 people watching. It's not just a niche. Racing is very, very
Very popular.
visceral, very
Yeah.
popular. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It-
even John Crew, the lead ship guy, one of his COVID projects was to make a racing Twingo and go
Yeah.
racing with it.
The project Twingo. Yeah.
Project Twingo, yeah, on CrewTube on YouTube. Watch it. It's fun. It's great.
I was going to say there's a lot of CIG personnel who are racing fans. I think what's happened is that Star Citizen's in a position, and the people who are racing fans who work for CIG are in positions now where they can go, this is how you do this. Who could be like, yes, we need to do this. So
I think, I look back to what we were told when we ran the first Trucks Cup, and it was you're ahead of us by 4 or 5 years. Because I think they always planned to do it, but they were always concerned what have we got that can handle it? Can the game handle it at the moment? And back when we started, there was no PU, there was just Arena Commander, and we pushed Arena Commander to the limit. There were times it broke. You couldn't run races because it was broke, and so it wasn't really viable to use Arena Commander for racing. It just didn't work. Not for a main event. The PU is where you want your main events to be, because there's more people able to be involved and other stuff. But I think CIG have been moving towards that and stretching the limits of what can be done. So I think it's positive, but it always feels to get moved glacially, and that's just the nature of game development as well. So
yeah. All right. Well, I think it's the end of our kind of discussion phase. We're going to move on to the question and answer section. But if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, make sure that you are, it's not really much to follow with Darj, but it's Darjanator.com, right?
That's the
Yes.
one. That's the one. Still haven't made anything. Still just a fucking link tree.
Just a link tree. Or check out the JRDF models as well, JRDF.sc.
JRDF. That is the one, JRDF.sc. We have the MSR launching very soon.
Yeah, there you go. If you like to go fast, speaking of the MSR, the winner of the Abel Baker Challenge. So itself is a endurance race. That's another endurance race that I'm looking forward to coming into the game, which is closer than we think, because Abel Baker is just outside of. Going to link to what's it called, to Hadrian, and Hadrian is 2 jumps away from Stanton. So it's like there's another great endurance race example. And then of course Echo, it's cruxcup.com, right?
That's at cruxcup.com. Sign-ups for the Crux Cup are going to close March 11th, but we will stream the championship races on March 25th and March 26th. We've got 2 one-hour races with all of the racing classes racing at the same time. It's going to be absolute madness. We have limited slots, a huge epic prize pool, 6,000 plus USD worth of prizes for first, second, and third. You can bring a teammate. Both of you won the listing prizes. It's absolutely insane. We've got so much to give away.
A2s, Aquilas, Starfarers,
Yeah,
that type of thing.
And of course, obviously, check out
I can't wait. What's the big mining ship that's coming in?
the big mining ship, the Orion.
Orion.
Orion. Yeah, I can't wait to see an Orion race.
The slowest race of all time.
Maybe it'll do 1 lap.
Take 24 hours to do 1 lap. And of course, you can check out Al and myself, in fact, on the Inforunners, youtube.com/the Inforunners. You can check us out. We talk about all sorts of things where we were just talking about our own, talking about ships, talking about our own rankings. We all did our rankings, our annual rankings of ships. So check that out soon. 2.5 hours of rankings. But if you're watching
What
this
happens
again,
when you get 5 people at the same time, right?
yeah. But if you are watching this after the fact as well, make sure that you like the video if you enjoyed it, dislike if you disliked it, subscribe if you want more of this. Join us live at Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. We started a little late today, but generally speaking, around that time. And of course, I want to know your comments down below about racing, about the future of racing, about how racing is now. If you're excited for the Crux Cup, the races as well, let me know in the comments. And as always, like I say, and before we do that, if you're looking to the question and answer session and you're watching this on the Monday after it's been recording, right above Darja's head, there'll be another link. You click that link and it'll be up already.
Stop doing that.
The sky is falling.
Yeah. You click that link and you can go immediately to watch the Q&A. So you don't even have to wait. I post it usually directly after, as soon as possible after that, so you can go watch that out. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.